Start our work session with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning. First item we have on our work session is to discuss the AMC Legislative Platform.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my thought was just that we'd want to review this before the legislative session or legislative conference, which is the first week of March. And I just included both priority lists from AMC in this item. The national one is really more for information, and then the Minnesota one is a reminder that all three items on the AMC policy platform are in the human services context. But there are other things that are important to Hubbard County, one of them being the bonding that could have an impact on the demo landfill 9-county project. Bonding will also have an impact on whether we have a grant application in for a new transit garage. I don't know that that's been backfilled yet, so they can't tell us if we've got the award or not until they know they've got money for that. And the other thing that we'd be requesting funds for that would come from a bonding issue would be next phase funding for Deep Lake Park. So bonding is always an issue. And then the general issues are just, there's been a history of more than 10,000 bills introduced at the state legislature every year for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's just too much to ever get through. This being an election year, I wonder how much is really going to happen in St. Paul. But it's still, I think it's important that when we go down there, Commissioner De La Hunt and Karen and I are going to be down there in a couple of weeks. We are able to tell some stories about Hubbard County. So I really just wanted to put this on here for you all to have a discussion about that and come up with a strategy or come up with some talking points you want to share. Or I know Commissioner De La Hunt has said meeting with our representatives is not always the most productive. Is there any opportunity to meet with others? Well, maybe if there isn't at that meeting, are there others we should be contacting ahead of that time or after that session that would be helpful too? So just making sure that we're reviewing this material, that we know how some of these things are going to impact Hubbard County. Commissioner Christensen asked if Mike had put together any estimates on the impact of the MAFPA legislation, and I have not asked him to do so, but it's a good idea, and I think I will have him take a look at that. So that's kind of what I have for introduction on that first item.
I have a comment on that. Bill, from MRC, one of the things they were asking is that there would be rural pilot programs before this is totally implemented. And then just a side comment, I was on the NACO call last week, and their federal legislation, the bills that they're supporting mostly center around water.
I wonder if there would be enough time to implement a rural pilot project before the implementation date that they have set. I just don't know if there's enough time for that.
Plus, last year anyway, they said the people that sponsored the bill weren't open to any kind of movement other than how it was written. But anyway, that came up at MRC.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when we're down there too, where the focus is. And is the focus on the current issues occurring, or are they going to focus on the real issues that have been hovering for years?
What they should be focusing on, like you say, will they be?
Mm-hmm. I did tell Representative Wiener last night that if they do a supplemental budget that really look at it, that if anything gets cut and the burden gets shifted to the county, that please look seriously and push for eliminating some of the unfunded mandates or rolling back things on if we're gonna be stuck making a decision on whether we fund a service or something like that, give us the flexibility to decide how that would look, instead of telling us, well, you just gotta pick up and cover the money that we're not giving you.
Yeah, we're gonna cut here, so
Yeah.
you guys gotta pick up
Because
the
maybe there's a
slack.
better way to do it locally.
I was wondering that same thing about these SNAP benefits. It sounds like that's got a potential of costing a lot for counties. And,
Right.
you know, if we gotta pick up the tab on that, then we should have a lot more say in who's gonna get that benefit. If they're not, well, someone who's able to work and not working,
Right,
then we should be able to say, well, you're not gonna get it.
right,
Move to another county.
yep.
As far as the SNAP benefits, I mean, maybe it would be beneficial to talk about a restructuring of the actual dollars given out. Are all those dollars necessary, and are they getting spent appropriately? To make sure that people are accountable for what they are receiving.
Another thing you could ask is, you know, I think David was you that said, or else it was Steve, Hubbard County deems somebody not eligible to receive benefits, and then the state comes in and says, yes, you will cover them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the problem there.
right.
I mean, if we gotta go and cover it, then we need to be able to have more say in it.
You know, the silver lining in this potentially could be, I mean, maybe you end up with some reforms of some of these things that make it better. I don't know. We'll have to see what comes out the other end, but people have to be willing to change things too, and then, I don't know what the temperature is to do that. We're gonna find out, I guess. That's why it'd be nice to get in front of some other reps and that besides our own, because we know where our own stand. I mean, they know where we stand, they're pushing that, but
Can you
chance
make
to
an
get in front of
appointment?
some other representatives that maybe have a different viewpoint than us, so that we can have a conversation and see where it goes.
Could you make an appointment with others?
I've asked before, I can reach out to Matt again and ask, and I'd be all for that.
I think it'd be very difficult to do during the conference, just because of how
Yes.
busy that is.
Right. Might catch them during one of the other side things going on or something, but.
Did anybody get, else, I got an email yesterday from Staubert Projects for a community project funding request. Did anyone else get that? I haven't looked into it. Was there anything that?
I did.
Did you?
I
Okay.
did. I did get a copy of that, and I will review it with Mary. And we have responded to that annually when
Okay.
it comes out.
Okay,
The challenge is that when it comes right down to it, he's not in favor of supporting spending like that, so he puts that out as a part of the calendar, but doesn't put forward any projects.
I was thinking the only one that might work is the industrial park up north, but are we actually to the point where it's shovel-ready?
No,
We're about a
we're
year
not.
off
We're,
from that.
we're a year out if we've signed a contract. We are still at the point of the background work.
That's what I kinda thought it was for shovel-ready projects, and I couldn't think of any myself.
yeah, it said shovel already in the email.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
So
mean-
yeah, that was my only thought. I mean, it might be something next year where we look at doing it and then, see what happens, but.
I personally have some projects that are ready. I wonder if I could get funding.
I'll send you the email. There's a link.
No conflict of interest there.
So I don't know, I read through all of these and,
I did too.
I think from Hubbard County's position, we're pretty well aligned with what AMC, wants to do with these issues. They do a really good job of getting input from everybody and kind of threading the needle on where it would land.
And everything was voted on as a conglomerate group at AMC, so, I mean, most of the wording fits what we desire as far as the outcomes.
I did have one question on payment in lieu of taxes. So NACO to support restoring the full mandatory funding for the payments in lieu of taxes. What are we currently receiving? Does anybody know?
I can give you a round dollar amount, it's in the budget, I think I could look it up, but
What percentage is that versus full payment?
I don't think it's showing a reduced amount at this point.
Okay, I just wondered at the wording there they used. So maybe they're asking to sustain the full mandatory, because
I
here it
think-
says to support restoring the full mandatory funding. I didn't quite understand what that meant.
And there's not
Was
very
it
much
raised a
federal,
couple years ago?
there's not much federal land in Hubbard County.
No, I know, I was just curious. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. At the national level,
Yep.
PILT funding levels have been reduced.
okay.
In the state, they have not, it just doesn't affect us.
Okay, so it doesn't
So
affect
like
us at all.
Superior National Forest,
Yeah,
Chippewa
okay.
National Forest,
Okay.
those
It
areas.
affects Cook County significantly, and when I was there, we were involved in, about a 3-year process to, have them reconsider the appraisal that they'd done on the property for the Superior National Forest, because the payment was gonna go from almost $3 million a year to less than $1 million a year.
Oh,
Now,
Okay.
here, a $2 million bump to the levy is a big problem. There, it's twice as big a problem, because their levy is just that much smaller.
Do we not have any federal land here? Because, you know, like, Soaring Eagle, is that not federal, that's state?
That's state.
Okay,
We have tens of thousands of dollars that come in. It really doesn't affect us.
Okay.
But we do have some, but that is, Cook and Lake County, St. Louis, and then mostly western states are the ones that are affected by that.
Anybody got anything else on legislative platform?
well, just a reminder that the rural health care is really important, as, you know, as members of Prime West, one of the things we pride ourselves on is access. And if members are, if services are cut in payments, then we have to somehow cut things, so that also has a broad effect.
That's kind of the frustrating part I have personally with it a little bit is like, you know, obviously you can't just continue to spend money and spend more money and throw more money at things. At some point, you gotta structurally make changes besides just pouring more money into things. And that just never seems to happen.
And what's what they're trying to do at the federal level, you know, as
Yeah.
far as Medicaid, you know, just don't be a sanctuary country for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Adding illegals to the Medicaid recipients.
Well, and you would think too, if they do find significant fraud, which apparently we're going to find in Minnesota, or they already have found, that should stimulate a change in how things are done and money savings. You shouldn't need to spend the same amount of money if a good percentage is going into no man's land. But maybe that makes too much sense, I don't know.
What about this technology stuff as far as the efficiency of it? Are they gonna be pushing to upgrade?
That's probably the biggest one is the software.
Yeah.
Social services really needs to get done and get done right.
Yeah, the problem with it is, I think, is it 3 years they figure before it's gonna be up and
Yeah.
running? And so
Yeah.
some of these things that are mandated will have to still be done manually or in the old system, which takes forever.
It can be done in the old systems, but it takes so much time.
Yeah,
You're in one database and then you have to pull out of that and go to another and then go to another to put something back in. It's,
and then it shuts down and it doesn't save what you put in.
And at MRC, it sounded like they were only working on the one module at a time, and they didn't know if that was going to be part of a broader thing with other modules that would integrate properly. But it would seem like it would be kind of not very effective or very beneficial if the modules are all separate like they already are. If they don't talk to each other, what's the point?
From what I understood through the conversations that I've heard is that other states have done it.
Yeah,
They've
they did talk
integrated
about
all
that,
of
yeah.
those things into a manageable set of programs that talk to each other, information shared. So if it's already out there, capturing that and then modifying it to suit what this state has as far as their programs and implementation and guidelines, then it should be able to be done relatively soon. I don't know if 3 years is soon or not in the world of computer programming and software development, but if a lot of it's out there, then why is it going to be
Shouldn't be-
super prohibitive to get it done?
Yeah, it's just a unified database.
I'm hopeful, but I'm skeptical because of the MinLars, was that what it was, for the
Yeah,
driver's license stuff?
disaster.
You know, where they spend hundreds of millions of
They
dollars. and-
tried to do that in-house.
Yeah.
This one sounds like they're putting an
So-
RFP out for
So
it.
hopefully.
It's slightly more complicated than when we switch payroll providers. And counties in the state, we do this to ourselves. There are software providers that provide databases that will do these things. And we have so many exceptions to every rule that none of them work for us. It took us 15 months to implement a payroll change.
Yeah.
3 years would be,
We're just a county with
Expected.
200 and some odd.
3 years is light.
Yeah, I think it'll end up going in pieces. They'll get a module done, then they'll get a second one that talks with the first one, or it'll just take a while. Anything else?
I can talk to Matt simply about the opportunities to have conversations with other members. Or if there are, like, for example, I know a couple of years ago, they pulled together a special meeting for people to get together with representatives who are willing to carry a bill relative to the demo landfill project. And that was above and beyond the regular meetings with the assigned legislators. So I think we start Wednesday with weekly updates. The administrators have bi-weekly updates with AMC staff and with Matt throughout the session. So I will put that on my list of questions to ask him.
If you do get into that, and it looks like you're making progress too, I would suggest to Matt that if he does set anything like that, I'm sure he would do this, but make sure he picks somebody that probably has an employee, but that's reasonable.
Well, he's going to be looking for somebody who is reasonable and in a position to actually bring something
Bring
forward.
something done.
For anything to get done, people are going to have to be willing to work together. And there are still a handful of people on both sides who are willing to work together on items that make sense, and some of these broadly make sense. So I know he knows who those people are. I know they're the people he talks to.
Yep. Good. All right, if there's nothing else, we can move on to capital project review.
I know more about this. And for right now, what I've done is I've put, I didn't update the list, I just provided the same list we had, but extended it by a year's range, and put the capital plan and the materials in there. Just so we have an idea, and we wanna talk through this. What I do have is I have a meeting on Thursday to talk capital planning with department managers to make sure the list is accurate, to make sure there's not something else on here that needs to be on here, that we've got things prioritized correctly. I know at the Public Safety and Public Works meeting on Friday, we had a conversation about when we were planning on doing some of these projects, and if they get switched, can we move other things up? And I wanna try to clarify that, because our policy says that we're going to approve this 5-year plan by the end of March every year. So we have, this will be on the agenda for next work session as well. It's primarily an introduction today to get you thinking about it. We've been so buried in this actual construction project that yeah, we have to pop up and take some time to plan for this. There are a few additional items on here. I know a conversation came up about planning for dispatch consoles. I had a brief conversation with Scott Parks about the fact that the state is changing the dispatch consoles and the provider they're using for that to a product that's significantly cheaper than what we currently have. So planning for that may or may not be important, but we still have to get a number and put it on here. We did get a contract with ICS, and we're gonna work through, and their contract says that within 3 months, they're gonna have the project done to evaluate options for the old jail space. So at this point, that's so far out that it's really not an issue for this planning purpose. But hopefully within a few months, we have something to think about for that and try to identify which project we want to put on the plan, even if it's out of ways. We did renew the DOC agreement for another year, but they're still continuing to look for better space if we can't make that space work for them. And the challenge is, I think they pay us about $15,000 a year in rent. It's hard to make a lot of changes for $15,000 a year.
It would be nice if they'd pony up some money to help us renovate that space and make it appropriate for what they want.
But they're not ponied up to get money from the state for,
They're doing better for us by way of our contract with them and managing our caseload. I think some things have changed, and I know that Mark has done some changing so that we're gonna be getting more revenue in than we were previously. But yeah, when we're talking about counties providing spaces for corrections and courts, there's no source of funding for that. That was an agreement that happened a number of years ago. And we're all kind of living with it at this point, but if we ended up doing something there, we wouldn't have any state money for that. It's not something they would put on a bonding list. It's not something they have grants for. It's not something they have sources of funds for. So if we do that, we would do that because it would help us, Hubbard County, provide better services generally.
I don't know if anybody knows, but is the state getting away from owning actual buildings? Are they leasing most of their spaces, or is it?
They're still building down at the Capitol.
Well, yeah, that's for themselves, yeah, they'll take care of it, but I mean, for other purposes, are they, besides like, highway and so forth, and state patrol, I mean, do they really own that many buildings, or are they leasing just about everything they have?
I think for DOC purposes, they're leasing everything that they have. As I was driving through DL last night, I looked and I saw the Minnesota logo, and I saw it was their Department of Corrections, and it was in an old retail building or an old service building, and I'm like, well, they're just leasing that from whoever owns it. So I don't think they're going to be building buildings or buying buildings for things like that. They're going to be leasing space to continue to provide those services.
In our case, either way, I mean, that's a problem.
Well, yeah,
It's-
yeah.
and it makes the most sense if they can stay here.
We can provide better services, all in all, if they're tied in with the jail and the courts, than we could if they were across town. We'd lose people, and more people would slip through the cracks, and especially right now, well, we just signed that agreement that'll carry us through the end of June 27, so that's good. And we should have this study done, which, well, and the real truth of the matter is there's no other suitable place for them in town. They've looked. If they had found it, they wouldn't have signed the last 2 years worth of contracts, but we still need to address it. And, whether it's a remodel in place, whether it's a mechanical system overhaul, or whether it's a big project somewhere down the road, I think are the three possible scales for that.
I know this is funding slated for 27, but at 60,000 for the elevator, that must just be repair, an
That-
upgrade.
That's a replacement of the, as I understand it, the car and the systems.
Okay.
And not the shaft.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so that's what that is.
And I noticed that there's a lot of electrical LED lighting and retrofit costs on here. I kind of assumed that had been done many years ago.
And that's
It
the kind of,
seems-
that's
It
kind.
seems significant.
That's the kind of thing that will very likely get pushed down the road because it has, I think those retrofits, if they were done in 2014, which means they're on the list to be done again. But until there's an actual benefit to the county to do that, or we see that there's a benefit in operational savings or, and truth be told, if there's not federal funding for energy savings programs, then there's less incentive to do things like that, you know, from the 1990s through 10 years ago, those things were all kind of funded when public buildings were upgraded. And I just don't know that they're going to be. I'm gonna meet with Bobby tomorrow afternoon, and then Thursday I'm meeting with the department managers to review this as well, but, Andrea has been pretty specific with her requests, which are good. She has a solid plan. We have this number here for the lower level break room that we put on 2026, but I didn't put that in the budget for this year. I do want to prioritize that and get that done. We did get an estimate from a local contractor to do it, which came in under that number. And the only reason that number is that high is because there's plumbing work that has to go, plumbing and cabinetry work that goes along with that. So think about hiring someone to remodel a kitchen. It would probably cost about the same amount.
Have you asked employees, are they interested in using it?
I think there are actually more people using it than there were when I first got here, and I believe there are more people who would use it if it was
Okay,
improved.
30,000 is what I spent on my first house in 1980. So
I bought a house in
a
20.
break room.
did it have a roof?
That should be 13,000.
I bought a house in 2010 for 12.
Was it livable?
Yeah, it's perfectly. Actually had a brand new garage that was worth more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just put cabinets in an office in Sue's building. And just the cabinets, I did all the labor myself. It was $3,700 for a 10-foot wall of cabinets.
I don't want to get ahead of myself too much, but they also had in the capital list of buildings we have, farther in the report, they had a salt dome at 237,000 or something. And I thought, it's quite the salt dome, but.
Where was that?
Like I say, that's farther down in the report.
Oh, yep. And the report is kind of the basis for coming up with the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
But not everything is carried forward from that initial report into the plan, which is another thing we're gonna review and make sure that's the case. I don't know if that's still a priority or if it isn't a priority.
That's what I liked when I was reading the report, noting that it was from 2025, and then realizing the things that we did get done that was in the report that we said we should get done.
The study was actually done in 2022 by ICS.
Okay.
We just didn't get to the point of having a full capital plan that incorporated that until 2024 and then last updated in 2025.
And I guess I had a question about the Nevis Shop waterproof door openers. Why would they need to be waterproof if they're up on the ceiling?
That's a fair question.
I don't understand that one. You shouldn't be spraying water up there in the first place.
They don't have a wash bay in that shop.
No, no. So I'm just kind of curious about that. I understand the fuel facility from the conversation we had at Public Safety. The school we share the fuel facility, but they're getting away from diesel. They're going to gas. So that's gonna complicate our end of the deal, so, that's something that's probably gonna be needed, and she kind of explained the plan that she had in mind, and it seemed like it was gonna be reasonable for what we're trying to accomplish.
Ted, on the salt dome, are you looking just at the MCIT value?
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if that's replacement cost then?
and if it's the salt dome I'm thinking of when I drive by the shop.
The one at the highway?
Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't it just a big building with a dome?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like.
A lot of concrete, a lot of really thick concrete.
that must be a-
Was this the page that you were looking at?
Well, that's oh, no.
That's the
uh-uh.
MCIT value.
Yeah, there you go.
This is the MCIT values,
Yeah.
and they went up significantly from 21 to 2025.
273 for the salt dome.
Yeah.
The MC, yeah,
Yeah,
like you say, that's
got
replacement
256.
cost.
This is a different page. I'm looking at page 18 out of 37. What page are you? Well, why is my value 273,065? Oh, there, never mind. I was looking at the wrong line. Okay.
Those are the insured values.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm looking at and there's another salt dome further down at 256. That's the one.
maybe that's the north shop. Yeah, Carnival 44.
Are that expensive to put? Man,
They are costly. There's a lot of concrete. I mean, when you're talking about going into something like that with a loader and pushing that force against the wall when you're trying to scoop up a heavy product in the first place, and the concrete is gotta be at least here from the floor to that facade,
At
if not
least.
higher than that and a couple feet
yeah, otherwise
thick.
you'd have a ton of corrosion.
Yeah, and then above that, if you're gonna, well, wood, you'd use treated probably, but otherwise, if you're going with an aluminum frame or stainless steel frame, that is extremely expensive to support the canopy above it. A
And
lot of
there's-
the states have gone, or the state has gone to the fabric style, the canvas dome, you know, and that seems to work quite well.
But you still have a lot of concrete and foundation work that you have to set that on.
Yep.
It just seems excessive.
You know, a contractor told me that just the concrete for a 1,500 square foot house, if you have a full basement, he said would be $100,000.
Gosh, it's gone up a
That's how
lot.
expensive it is. Crazy.
Yeah.
Anywhere near that in
Yeah.
2009.
Yeah,
Wow,
that was probably half that.
even less, a third of that.
What did you think of the nursing home manor and cottages MCIT has listed for value? That's interesting.
Yeah, because that's just the buildings.
Right.
We couldn't
Yeah,
sell
but,
it for that.
Well, we put, when we remodeled, it was 14, 15 million. And since then, how much of construction costs go up? If it all burnt down,
So they're saying to build that new would be close to
Right.
$30 million.
Right.
Which is twice what it was in 2021. Which I believe to be true. And part of it is, part of this conversation is the same as the home prices increase that we had from 22 to 24, right? The market just went crazy, but because they all went up proportionally, each person's share kind of stayed relatively the same, right? With slight shifts here and there. This is some of the same thing. Every county's MCIT values have gone up by the same percentages, and the rates haven't gone up at the same level. Our rates didn't double when our values doubled. Right? It's kind of the same thing as calculating taxes based off value. Our payments, our MCIT premiums did not double at the same time that our buildings doubled. Because you're paying you're not paying at 1%, you're paying at a much smaller percent than 1% on that value.
that makes sense. A ton of people's homes have doubled in assessed value too, same period.
So my point in introducing this was that you have it in front of you again, that you know that we're gonna be having a conversation about it in a month. And in a month, you'll be looking at what I hope to be like the 90%, because the last meeting in March, we're gonna wanna vote on the updated 5-year plan. So if there are things that don't make sense or don't look in the right order, let me know. And bring those notes and information in March. But we're gonna be doing our homework in the next 3 weeks to make sure that we're bringing you as complete a list as we can in a month.
At this point, my gut's telling me too that we probably have to figure out how to prioritize that old jail faster than we thought we might have to. And that might mean shifting some stuff, because
Well,
that's just gonna get more expensive and harder to do.
especially if it comes back favorably for the
Right.
DOC.
We'll have to see what ICS comes up with,
Yep.
but that's just gonna continue to be a problem.
So when we started on the project that we're currently working on, the big project here was to do basically infill 2 floors to match up with the law enforcement building, and the primary functions were to improve space for courts, improve space for corrections, improve transit of prisoners from the jail to the courts, that's more secure than it currently is. And it would very likely include additional office space for law enforcement and the potential of moving the attorneys. Even though we're remodeling their space right now, if we get to the point where they have to add another attorney and another staffer, we don't have a place to put them. We have just enough space for the FTE they have on the book. If that doesn't grow, we're fine. We would like that to not happen for a while, but regardless, if we said go today, we'd be 3 to 5 years before we could start a project of that scale. And truthfully, and I can work with Ellers to model this, but I honestly believe we need to get about halfway through the debt that we just took out before we could reconfigure that debt and roll the other portion in and maintain a payment similar to what we have, or 25% more than what we have, not doubling what we have. And I don't think you'd be interested in doubling the debt service payment for the county. I mean, if you were, we could do it, I could say go. We could start it in 28. But I don't think you are, so for us to get to the point of having a debt service load that increases by 20 or 25%, we're 2034 before we could issue again. Halfway through that 20-year period, we could restructure that debt contingent on interest rates and everything in a way that would allow us to not have that double. But I will talk with Ellers about modeling that. That's what we call administrator math. In my head, if we wait 10 years, I think we could restructure that and come up with something that's much more palatable.
It could be an interesting thing to ask for congressional directed funding for too. Looking through some of the things that were approved, I mean, it would have a benefit to every taxpayer in the county.
I would be very happy to send an application, response to Sauber's office saying that we're looking for money to improve our court facilities.
Mhm.
I don't think has as much of a chance of being funded, but I think it's a valid request and could be well supported.
Well, he asked for requests.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
May as well.
starting point.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll talk to
Because if
Mary.
they're never made aware of it, then they're never gonna act on anything.
Yeah, and if it's gonna take us even 3 or 4 or 5 years for them to actually maybe do something, if we start now, it'll be 3, 4, 5 years. If we wait, obviously, it's that much farther down the road. It's kind of what we're doing with the Mississippi Headwaters Board. We don't expect to get any money, but we're gonna ask for it.
Well, yeah, once ICS is done and we kind of identify what it has to look like, then it is basically shovel ready, we just need funding.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first part of the project would be identify the 3 levels that project could take, which we've kind of had that conversation. If there's a way that we could spend a couple $100,000 and make that space so that they're comfortable for the next 5 years,
That'd be great.
probably worth it. To update the mechanical systems in there would be $3 to $5 million. Probably not worth it because we don't gain any space back. So, and then the last estimate on the square footage, to redo that would be about $16 million. that price isn't gonna go down. But I'm gonna actually let them do the work, and the work they're gonna do is interview all of the departments that I mentioned previously, courts, corrections, attorney, law enforcement, sheriff's office. Also potentially look at links to the existing building. If we come off the backside with elevator access, then we can alleviate the handicap issues. Is that space better used for a county purpose than the current purpose? It's a question that needs to be asked. When we renewed that lease in 21, we're probably gonna be coming up for renewal this year. I think it's a 5-year lease. In 2021, I know I brought that forward and said, in 5 years, there's no better use for that building than what's currently in there. It's probably highly likely in June when I bring that renewal, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be coming up this year, that for 5 years, there's not a better use. But then there's a point in asking the question about whether or not there is a better use.
I guess one of the things that's brought up to me fairly regularly is we need to be careful about spending. People are getting tired of the levy increasing consistently every single year, and they're quite disappointed to see it increase when they're not really, so to say, realizing a benefit to them as a taxpayer. So I just want to voice that concern that I don't want to take on any more debt for any reason if we don't have to, because I think we're kind of sitting in a pretty good position right now. But I don't want to overburden our taxpayers by any means.
And also, the majority of the levy is just the cost of the staff. We
Yeah.
don't have a lot of dollars left over.
Yep, I know.
But that being prudent requires having a plan, which is why we went down the road of having a plan. And having a plan and actually then, on an annual basis, taking the next year and rolling that into the actual budget are still two different things. Even if there's something on the 5-year plan, in 2027, and we're budgeting for 2027, it might not get done. We may decide that elevator is perfectly fine, the inspection reports are good, and we can delay that a year. On the other hand, pushing everything off until it actually breaks becomes problematic. So that's the point of planning is to understand what's coming up. And what we are responsible for is the maintenance of the $100 million worth of buildings that the county has. And then the determination if those facilities are appropriate for the continued support of services.
I used the elevator this morning and got here just fine.
Just a little slow.
It hasn't failed on anybody or stranded anybody in a while, as I understand it. I've not been stranded in that one. I have been stranded in other elevators.
I do know that I can do the stairs in less time than it takes to get to third floor in an elevator.
I figure it's part of the Hubbard County Health Program to walk up those stairs.
Last year I was in one and going up and I swear it dropped 4 feet with a loud bang. It was
This
like,
one or a different one?
no, not this one, it was somewhere else. It was like, okay.
Should have taken the stairs.
Well, it kept running, but got my attention anyhow.
How high was it? I mean, how much potential could?
I was like on the
it
3rd floor at the
Oh,
time, so.
wow.
But they have the brakes that.
Yeah, I always wondered about those things though.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
The only number that I actually added to this from the last time that you saw it is this $400,000 down here for Deep Lake Park development in 2027. And that's an approximate estimate for renovation of that maintenance building, which was on phase 1 and was part of our share of the grant for that was the renovation of that project, or of that building. The estimate on phase 1 of grant was $200,000. That was 3 years ago when that was written. And it probably didn't include all the things that this does, and this includes things that we may not need to do, including the level of insulation and heat, or whether or not we're gonna do that. That will come from a recommendation from the Parks Board when we're looking at phase 2. But I just put it on there because at some point, we're gonna need that space if we're gonna provide services out there. Or an equivalent space.
I thought that area was questionable whether it was worth using.
I did have ICS take a look at it while they were out there,
Okay,
and the concrete work and the foundation and the walls are all in good shape.
okay, okay.
The roof was the challenge, and this includes knocking down the last 40 feet. It's a 120 by 40-foot building, and the last 40 feet are not built the same.
Okay,
So they take that off, build a new wall, remove the entire roof, and put a pole-style roof with 4-foot supports on center up there. Insulate, and include electrical and heating systems, so it would be everything we would ever need for that. But it's the only thing I had was a $375,000 number estimate from this year, and I just put $400,000 2 years out and said, it's a placeholder. It's a point of conversation.
Put money in there for, on the capital plan here?
One thing I was thinking about in the capital, and I don't know now, Crystal's leaving, and I don't know where she's at. I sent an email, and I'll probably find out tomorrow night where exactly she was at with the Beltane,
Beltane.
Lake Beltane issue. Because she was trying to find money to do a feasibility study. That's the next step. Whether they're successful at that or not, and we could talk a little more about it at general government, but what some other options may be. I don't know what a feasibility study would cost for that. Hard to say.
We did budget funds to support that for 2026, but it is a valid question to ask where that process is with her leaving.
Right. 'Cause it may get to the point that if we're still interested in it with the changeover in SWCUD, we might have to take more of a lead in getting this, if we want to get that feasibility study done. Now's the time to do it. Water's down, everything's down. Find out what your options are, so you have time to do something if you need to or want to.
when are you interviewing for, to fill that position, Tom? Do you know?
Well, actually, it's the supervisors who do the interviewing, yeah.
Yeah,
It was on their last week's agenda, but I was held up in an airport. so I
oh,
wasn't
okay,
able to go.
okay.
Yep. So that would be something I'll
We
ask
can
them.
kind of ask that tomorrow,
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
find out what their
tomorrow. Yep.
timeline is.
I would think they'd wanna get things
I
going
would
really
think
fast
so.
with it, yeah.
Anything else?
I just wanted to mention one other thing, that one of the major electrical systems over there is gonna require a power shutdown for a number of hours. We're gonna do it during a weekday. It's gonna be on February 24th. They have a committee that's met a couple of times on how to handle that and to determine what the effect is gonna be. At the last week's meeting, I said, can't you guys do this at night? And we went through the whole scenario, and Bobby was there and said, no, we need to have the ability, I mean, this might be an hour-long shutdown, it could be a 3-hour-long shutdown. If it happens overnight and we don't have the right people here, it's gonna be a day-and-a-half shutdown. So we just can't chance that. We have a meeting on Thursday with the group to finalize that plan. And it means that there won't be power in that building for an hour to 3 hours on February 24th. I'm counting on Joe and Scott and the rest of them over there to come up with the plan for their level and work with the Department of Corrections on that. My interest is in making sure that we're representing the human services staff that are upstairs and how that impacts them. And then how it affects IT. And does that affect any services that we have countywide? They're switching over a main breaker on a 480 amp line. There's no way to do it without shutting it off. They have to shut down the generator system before they shut it off, or the generator system is gonna kick in and overload.
So my
the-
major concern would be dispatch, obviously. Do they have a solution
We,
in play yet?
we will get you a plan as soon as,
Yeah,
we're meeting on
'cause-
Thursday to finalize the plan for it. And it's complicated,
Because
but
Northwest
everything.
has portable dispatch available if we don't have it that they could get.
And I'm not sure that, I haven't been part of the first two meetings. I am going to the one on Thursday to make sure that that somebody thinks about communicating that
Or reroute
countywide.
Bemidji or something, I
Yep.
suppose.
Yeah, there are lots of different options. That's actually an easier one to solve than some of the others, but my primary concern is staffing and data access. Everything that we're using out of Office 365 is fine, because that's not maintained here. But when you think about, well, we'll send all the human service staff home because they can work from home, everyone that can will do that, and that's fine. But the FTP server is hosted here. If that's not powered up, they can't do any of their work from home.
Yeah.
So they can't access state systems without going through an FTP server. So that's why I started asking a couple of questions. I realized I needed to be at that last meeting to know what the plan was, not only to ask those questions, but to communicate to people appropriately so that they understand what's gonna happen. I don't know that licensing through the state, everything we do in this building, everything that people come through the front door to do, we're gonna be able to do. That's not a problem. But it's kind of an unavoidable thing when they have to cut in power like that. We did that when they were doing the earthwork last year, but they did it overnight, and they were perfectly comfortable doing it overnight because of the type of work. But this one, Bobby's very supportive of having it done while his staff is here so that they can start systems back up when it comes online. What we can't have is things to fail when they start back up again.
Yeah.
So I will share that plan when we have it, but it's important for people to know that it's coming up. We'll be making sure that we share that through department managers, and every staff needs to know. I may make an exception and send a countywide email on this one when we're done, just because everybody needs to know.
And anybody got anything else?
I thought maybe I mentioned just for information, I don't know if you've seen your email, but current county commissioner Rusty Littlequist, Cass County, passed away.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and he's on our ambulance
board.
committee, yeah.
Oh,
He did. AMC just sent
yeah, they did, they just sent it.
they just sent a note. Services are on Saturday. I was gonna mention that. So, yeah, that was, he was doing better.
Yeah.
He was
Oh,
very bad off, and then he was doing better, and I was terribly surprised to hear this. And it's weird because I didn't hear it through AMC. I heard it through all the muskie fishing guides that I know, because I've known Rusty from that capacity long before I knew him in this capacity. So yes, that, you all have an email about that.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.